Refreshed. Good. Now what? They're supposed to be...
Thank you, Abraham. Pleasure to be with you. I was reading Sarah's book. I've read it a few years ago. And Sarah and Seth were doing a class project. And they were trying to figure out the number of leaves in their surrounding. And Sarah was surprised that she didn't know of so many different things around her, the shapes of the leaves and stuff like that Seth knew. And a lot of times I feel the same way, as in there are so many things around and that I don't even know how it works, but is there. And I want to feel it more, as in when I look at the fruits around, so many different tastes, so many different colors. You look at flowers, so many different shapes, animals, the type of skin they have. It's like there is so much
Variety.
There is so much planned, and it is planned to so much perfection. And there must have been a really great master plan behind all of that, because just look at the variety just in fruit, just look at the variety just in animals, just look at the variety in soil, just look at the variety in rocks.
The master plan is continuing to expand. In other words, we want you to accept your part in the evolution of this plan. It's expansion, and it's becoming more and more and more and more all the time.
I guess I want to know how to fully live it, as in I know the answer is alignment with source. But
Esther picked a sentence out of a seminar as she was listening to it, and she hears things that stand out to her in meaningful ways, and then she writes them in 24-point, very big type, and prints it and puts it on her desk and reads it. And the one that she picked out from a recent segment, it may have been one of the Los Angeles segments, was overwhelmment is the sensation of getting in the way of energy flow. And the sentence that you just offered, in some ways you were feeling a little overwhelmed with all of the variety, wanting to comprehend it, wanting to appreciate it all. And then your next sentence is about wanting the energy to flow. I think it is a really interesting thing, because you're recognizing at some level that on the one hand, appreciation could be of benefit to you, but the feeling of overwhelmment is not of benefit to you. So we like to liken all of this variety to like the ingredients in a well-stocked kitchen, where you don't put everything in the pie that you're making today. You pick what's appropriate given the intentions, given what you're reaching for. And so it's a very small part of what's actually in the kitchen that actually goes into anything. And everything is sort of like that. All of these recipes for moments in time, you're picking and choosing from different ones of them. But we know what you're getting at, and this is the solution that we are wanting to offer to you, because we want you to realize that you are selecting from among these ingredients vibrationally. It's not something that you're doing very well with your action. In other words, you cannot manage all of the details of this time-space reality with your mind. To catalog them and pigeonhole them and even identify them or give names to all of them, it would put you in an enormously overwhelmed state of being. But if instead you realize that here you stand in your powerful now, and that you have this reasonable focus that's going on now, which is your primary point of attraction right here and now. But that through former times that you have been focusing, you've put plenty into your vortex. And so you have identified, and the cream of the crop, everything that you've most wanted has been identified. So what's in your vortex is not everything that exists. It's just the best of everything that you've lived so far. So already it's been honed down to something that is much more manageable. Not only is it manageable, the source within you is managing it. The source within you is tending to it, you see. And now you have this simple task, this simple responsibility, if you want to make it that stark of a thing for yourself to do. You have this simple experience of accepting that it's there and finding some way right now to line up with it. And then in perfect synchronization, in perfect organization, in perfect And by perfect, we mean in a way that you can most readily experience the most of it in the best possible way. It will flow to you. It's like moving through life and the best of it revealing itself to you. Esther always likes it when in a movie the camera zooms in on the subject that they want to show and everything in the background kind of blurs. Because she's quite often looking back there trying to see what it is that's still back there just for fun. But it's like that. It's like everything that is important to you comes to the foreground and the things that are less important go to the background, and you don't have to worry about sifting it and sorting it and identifying it. The only thing that you are wanting to be cognizant of is what are you doing vibrationally here and now.
And so, Abraham, how am I going to feel when I get in alignment with my vortex, with the things that I want to appreciate?
Well, your alignment with your vortex comes and goes and comes and goes.
Sure.
And so we put the question back to you, how do you feel when you're in alignment?
As in when I find a color on a flower that I had never imagined, I feel so much joy. And I feel that, wow, there's so much more. And I'm an engineer, so I think of the shapes and colors and materials, and it's all so perfect. And so I guess that's how I would feel when I'm in alignment and totally appreciating the creation.
Yeah. You press your nose against the window of the airplane, you just can't stop looking out at the beauty of it. And the inspiration to do that is always at the moment when there's something in the most extraordinary way for you to see. We want to say to you, you want to see the world through the eyes of Source, but we also want to say to you, Source wants to see the world through your eyes, because you got the eyes. And so when you are in alignment and therefore allowing this open vortex that is you for those like us to flow, then when we flow through your open eyes in our open non-resistant state, then we have an exalted experience and you feel it too. That's just the best that life gives to all of us, you see. Helpful?
Yes. Thank you very much.
We just want to throw something in here that's humorous. One day, Jerry was in one of his really appreciative, tuned in, tapped in, turned on mornings. And he was in love with the new blossom on the bougainvillea. It was just extraordinary. And when he walked through the gardens, he found an agave plant. And he said to Esther, have you ever seen more beautiful colors? And Esther wanted to know what he was on. She knew he wasn't on anything because he never was, but he was behaving, he was just, from Esther's point of view, too in love with these colors. And then he took them to the contractor on site and talked with him. Esther wasn't there. And later he came back and he said, we're going to paint the two new offices that no one's moved into. One of them is going to be the color of the bougainvillea and the other one's going to be the color of the agave. And Esther said, okay. And then they got in the bus and drove away and were gone for several weeks. And when they came back, the rooms had been painted. And the men who had painted them all gathered round because they wanted to be there when Jerry and Esther walked into the space because they were horrible. It was perfect for the flower and it was perfect for the agave, but it was terrible in the room. And so it's a little bit what we're talking about, what you were talking about the combinations, about the beauty of nature and what nature is able to accomplish. And Jerry just had an exaggerated moment in time when he was appreciating nature and he just wanted to magnify it by a lot and did. There is vibration in everything. There is vibration in everything, especially in color. Everything that you see is an interpretation of vibration. Everything that you hear is also. We are liking the direction of this question. And so doesn't it follow that the more in alignment you are with who you are, then the greater your appreciation is? And when you leave it to the universe to put these things together, and of course, man is wanting to mimic them as much as we are not making fun of Jerry because he had lots of things that he was inspired to that turned out in exactly the right way. But we think that it is really worth considering how when you see the way nature is unfolding and the beauty that you were describing, and your words were wonderful but didn't even come close to what you were feeling as you were describing it. Yes. It is indicative of the perfection of what's going on in that vortex. And so when things then are allowed to be, if you could stand in a place of trusting the perfection of outcomes in the way you've come to accept the perfection and the outcomes of these things, these beautiful things that you are acknowledging, this time-space reality is perfection, and it is evolving perfection. And the input that you offer as you explore it and appreciate it adds to this never-ending, eternal unfolding of beauty. And our interest as we play with all of you, especially in settings like this, is to help to activate within you this realization of the perfection of this time-space reality that you are living in, so that you can sort of stand back in more ease, not like so many stand in an attitude of we've got to clean this up, or this is broken and this is broken, but instead in an attitude of look at the perfection that is surrounding us and how can I get in on more of that. Yeah. Good.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed.